You gotta give me one thing. I'm a scary judge of talent.
Adolphus Washington back-to-back plays.
The Detroit Pistons select Luke Kennard from Duke University.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another episode of the Triple-Double Podcast. We've got a whole lot of guests for you today as the district tournament is over. We're going to preview the regional tournament, which is the 4 teams in each region, where one will come out and advance to the state tournament next week on the campus of Ohio State. So we've got Jason Morrow, always, as our producer, one half of 270 Hoops. We've got the other half of 270 Hoops. We got Zach Fleer. We've got NEO Spotlight, TJ Peatross. And we've got the GOAT from the Around the State podcast, Kurt Stubbs. Stubbs, I'm gonna start with you, man. What's going on?
You know what? I just actually got done recording a podcast on that new series that we got going on right now, celebrating the 25th anniversary of the 94 state champions. So that was a lot of fun. And other than that, man, just getting ready for Monday Night Raw.
Are we allowed to have you on the podcast without you doing some of your ad reads? Do you need to do an ad read real quick, or can we just go?
You know, the Black Tux let me off tonight, so we're good.
Black Tux is a strong product.
Hey, Fleer actually, you know, I think he was really serious about using that for his wedding.
Yeah, I paid way too much, Stubbs. Thanks.
There you go. Well, what we're going to do here is we're going to go region by region. Everybody, we're going to go over the games for the regional tournament, discuss each of these guys have expertise in different areas. Some of them have expertise in all the areas. But before we do that, I want to start off with some of the anomalies that happened in the district tournament, some of the things that people didn't expect to happen. And Zach, I'm going to start with you. Let's start with Division I in the Columbus region. 2 things happened. Thomas Worthington upset Hilliard Bradley. Olentangy Orange upset Dublin Kaufman. Those are 2 of the top 3 seeds, neither one of which made it to the district finals. So what happened there?
Yeah, so in the district semifinals, both those teams went down. It was the first time that I can remember where the top 2 seeds lost before the district finals. It's the second year in a row where our top seed had gotten beaten before the district finals. Last year, Pick North had lost to Mount Vernon. With this one, I felt like going in, Olentangy Orange could play with Dublin Kaufman. They matched up really well with them, and Kaufman had kind of struggled in the second half of the season. You know, they'd still won games, but they weren't the same. Derek Van Blair was a kid that came down with mono and just never got back to being the athlete that he was. So when that game went final, I wasn't as surprised as I was with Hilliard Bradley losing to Thomas Worthington. Coming into that game, Bradley had beaten teams from their conference 45 games in a row, I believe. They hadn't lost to Thomas Worthington since 2010, and they'd really dominated them in both games. So to see Bradley lose to that team was really surprising, and that was definitely the upset. You know, I was sitting after the Newark Walnut Ridge game just talking to people, and when they found out that, you know, Bradley had lost, everyone in that gym was kind of surprised. They weren't as surprised about Kaufman losing, but Bradley going down was definitely the shocker in the area that night.
I don't know a whole lot about Bradley beyond their personnel. I mean, I know they're a deliberate team. I know they play a defensive style, and you know, I know that from down here with the Catholic schools in Division I, you often see that those teams that play that low-scoring style, if they have one night where their shots don't go in, they can lose. Now, on the flip side, the heavy favorite now, I mean, maybe they're already the favorite, but now they're the super heavy favorite, is Pickerington Central. Now, we're going to talk about where you think they stand in the regional tournament, but to get there, they had to go through a scare. Stubbs was sweating. Tell us about that Reynoldsburg game in the district final.
Yeah, so that one was also the third time they'd matched up. Both games in the regular season, Reynoldsburg had played them tough, keeping it within single digits. This time it finally, felt like they had broken through there in the fourth quarter. They took the lead a couple times over and just couldn't get it done. But with that Reynoldsburg team, they had a trio of wing players with Ben Fort and Sean Moore and Xavier Prince that were all long, athletic guys that kind of matched up with the personnel that Pick Central has. So that was a low-scoring game. Central, Javon Garcia really stepped up there in the fourth quarter. His team was facing, I believe, a 1 or 2 point deficit with about minute 55 to go. He forced a steal and then ended up hitting the game-winning free throws about 30 seconds left. He really stepped up, put the game in his own hands, and Central, they just get it done every single year. 7 straight times that they've played in the district finals, they've won, and they got 7 district titles out of the last 8 years and 4 in a row. So for the Division I level and for being a public school, that's pretty impressive, especially in this area that we have so much parity and talent year after year. For them to do that is really impressive, but didn't come without a scare there with Reynoldsburg. That was a team. Ben Fort and Sami Willoughby, Xavier Prince, and Sean Moore, all those guys came to play on Saturday, but Central was just too much in the end.
Well, I got to watch the end of that game on your Twitter video or whatever it's called. So, Stubbs always tells me how big of a following you have in Columbus, and I was on there. It was like 400 people watching, so I know everybody appreciated that. Non-Division I, the two things that I wrote down for in this kind of the greater Columbus teams was not an upset, but the district final for the team that's actually going to come down my way, the Southwest region. Hartley beat DeSales at the buzzer, and what I know is kind of a rivalry game. And then also talk about in Division III, you got a team in Grandview Heights that was able to get past 2 really good teams, and Worthington Christian, which I know on paper was an upset, and then had a really good game with Johnstown Monroe.
Yeah, so starting with Hartley, that was my pick in the preseason. That was my pick, before the tournament. When you have the best player in the tournament, Morgan Safford, it's hard to go against them. And he just seems to keep getting the job done for them. In the district semifinals, they beat the 2 seed Jonathan Alder. In that game, they led for 0.6 seconds of the entire game. Safford was fouled shooting a 3, just under a second remaining. They were down 2. He knocked down all 3 free throws. They ended up winning that game. And then they faced the Sales in the district final. And that matchup with the Sales in the previous regular season matchup, Safford had hit the game-tying free throw or game-tying 3 in regulation and the game-winning 3 in overtime. Kind of the same thing there. He had a bad first half and then came out in the second half, knocked down 3 straight triples. That was after, they chanted overrated to him, and he kind of stuck it to him right after that. And then, Colby Rankin, the junior transfer from Gahanna, hits the biggest shot of his career. Safford made the best play there. He got the rebound on the missed free throw. He probably could have taken it himself and taken the own shot, but he passed it up and made the right play, and then Rankin knocked down the shot and really broke the Sales' hearts again. For Hartley, that's their first Division II district title since 2011, and their last district title was 2015 in Division III. But with Grandview, that's a team they had also mono problems. Luke Lachey had mono mid-season. They lost a couple games there. It's really the reason why they fell to the 6th seed. Morrow was the only one on our staff that picked them to win the district in that bracket. So shout out to Morrow for that.
Morrow.
But they really, Morrow got the pick. He won't say a lot, but they had to beat a very good Worthington Christian team in the district semifinals. I covered that game. Brian Collier, the junior point guard, was outstanding. And about a minute stretch from the end of the third quarter to the beginning of the fourth quarter, he knocked down 3 straight triples on a 9-0 run by himself that broke the game open and led them to the district finals. And in the district finals, they struggled in the first half against Johnstown, who was shutting them down. And Owen Hazelbaker was, getting anything he wanted around the basket. In the second half, Luke Lachey really stepped it up and, sat down and played some defense and held Owen to 4 points in the second half. And Luke made some big plays. They have 3 really good players between Lachey, Brian Collier, and senior Manny Day, who's a kid that doesn't get enough praise for what he does. He's really the heart and soul and the toughest guy on that team. So Grandview's got a chance. They go to a D3 Bowling Green regional that doesn't have Archbold, who is the 1 seed, and Ottawa Glandorf isn't up there either. So they got to like their chances than maybe what it would have been before the tournament started. So they're going to have a tough shot up there, but they're a well-coached team, and they have a trio of 3 really good players. So I think they'll have a chance to go as far as they want.
Good deal. You definitely came at it with some stats, with some analytics, and let's see if these other guys are up for the challenge. TJ Peatross, let's move on to you. Let's talk about Division I up in, you got that whole Northeast Ohio. You got a couple different regions, but let's just look at Division I in your area. Akron St. Vincent St. Mary, first year in Division I, at least in recent history of a long time. They play Akron Copley, and they win 30-25. And that's not a first quarter or halftime score. That's a final score. What do you know about that one?
Yeah, so unfortunately, I didn't have the luxury of watching that game. I'm kind of relieved about that. But that score kind of sparked a big, shot clock conversation. I don't know how much you guys see that on your timeline, but after that game, it was just, dozens of people just kind of going back and forth about it. And I thought it was interesting because Copley, anybody who's watched Copley over the years, they know in Northeast Ohio they're one of the quickest teams, getting the ball from point A to point B. And just looking at their schedule, they've only had one game all season where they scored less than 50 points. So that was definitely interesting. I saw a video. I want to say it was St. V held the ball for the final 3 minutes of the first quarter. I believe after the first quarter the score was 5-1. So that was definitely kind of an eye opener. And that's what, St. V likes to do, like you mentioned earlier about Bradley. St. V is kind of similar in that regard. They're very deliberate. They want to make you play their style of basketball. And we all know Drew, regardless of what kind of kids he has in there, they're always going to be tough. They're always going to, play hard. But, yeah, I'd be lying if I said that score and kind of, catch me off guard.
Okay, two potential upsets in that those district final games up there in Division One. One of them I know you think is an upset, and one of them you don't think is an upset. And those two games are Olmsted Falls over Lorraine. Lorraine considered all year as one of the threats to win the state tournament. And then Mentor over Brush. Brush had a great regular season, but goes down. So tell me about those two games.
I didn't get a chance to see Olmsted Falls this year, but I was pretty familiar with, a good amount of their kids, from AAU this summer. And one thing I thought was, kind of funny about that situation is I was down in Louisville, not this past summer, but the year before. And I was watching a 16U game with OBC, who had, Lorraine's Devon Grant and Kevon Pierre-Louis. And they played against a smack running Rebels team that had Gavin Dietrich and Eric Hanna from Olmsted Falls. And I remember, one takeaway from that tournament, probably the only thing I remember, was that SMAC team ended up beating OBC by like 25 points. And it was, the Olmsted Falls kid played a big role in that. Eric Hanna, who's going to John Carroll next year, is a big-time shot maker. And those kids just play hard. I know I kind of got some flack on Twitter when I said, that was, an upset. Some people in my area didn't like to hear that one, but it doesn't surprise me. I saw Olmsted Falls last year. They're a team that really just plays hard. Their effort on both ends of the floor is something that just sticks out to me. And they got guys that can make shots, and they came in there, and they took care of business.
Let me stop you real quick now. You saw that SMAC team. Did you see them the night before when the Cincinnati Lakers, coached by myself and two great assistants, Greg Ty and Ricardo Hill, we beat their ass? So did you see that game?
No, I didn't get a chance to go down there. Is that when you had did you have Greg and Deuce at that time?
And more points than them at the end. We had all three of those things, TJ. So, but I'm sorry, I should have interrupted you. Mentor Brush.
Well, in that district, Mentor actually got voted the number 1 seed. And when I went up and watched Mentor against Medina earlier this year, I tweeted something. This was probably back in December that that potential Mentor Brush matchup in the district final was something that was really intriguing to me. And yeah, I can't say I was too surprised, especially after watching Brush and Cleveland Heights, which was in a game where Brush was considered the heavy favorite, and they barely snuck out of that one. I believe the final was 68-67. So yeah, Mentor is just playing great basketball right now. They've got some real quality wins. I know they beat Lakota East, who, in my opinion, is probably the second best team in Cincinnati that I've seen all year. And they kind of handled them by, I want to say it was like double digits. I'd have to check, but I know they beat them pretty clear. So Mentor's a good team. Obviously, I think Coach K does as good a job as anybody in the state. They don't have a lot of college prospects on their team. Most of the guys are Stubbs guys, that play baseball, football, soccer, and probably everything else in between. So I think that matchup that they have with Green in the regional semis is going to be a matchup of two of the best coach teams in the area.
Okay. One other surprise in Division One, and we'll talk about their road in the future a little later, but the road of their path so far is Euclid knocked off a slightly banged up Garfield Heights team as well as the Shaker Heights team to surprise people and get to the regional semifinal there.
Yeah, with the Garfield Heights game, I guess you can kind of put an asterisk next to that. Garfield Heights was missing, sophomore guard B.T. Johnson. And I believe that game went to overtime. So that kind of surprised me. I thought when I heard that Dimitri wasn't playing, I figured Euclid would kind of, win that one pretty clearly. So, but Euclid has been a very interesting team the last few years. 2 years ago, I believe they only won one game. And then last year, they kind of turned it around and finished above 500. So they had high expectations coming into this year, and they dropped I think 4 of their first 5 games. They played a pretty tough schedule with Lorraine, Medina, Garfield Heights, Solon. And with Shaker Heights, they split. And I was at the first game, and I didn't get a chance to see the second time around. But that was a game I thought could go either way. And that district, to me, was just wide open from the very beginning. There were so many teams in there who had beaten each other. You had Warren Harding, who had beaten Garfield Heights. You had Garfield Heights, who had beaten Euclid. You had Euclid, who split with Shaker Heights. So those were the teams that were kind of in the mix, and I don't think anyone really, had a clear-cut pick coming out of that one. But, yeah, Euclid was able to take care of business, and it'll be interesting to see, the guard matchups against St. Ed.
Okay. Last thing for you for recapping the districts. VASJ has been a power in Division 4, Division 3. They are now in Division 2 out of Cleveland. And with Mentor Lake Catholic losing, VASJ is primed to have a little easier road, and some things went differently in that district than everybody thought, even though the likely team probably still got out.
Yeah, with Lake Catholic, losing to Geneva, that was probably, the biggest upset my way. I know Fleer mentioned, Olentangy Orange over Dublin Kaufman. I would say Geneva over Lake Catholic would be the, kind of comparable upset up here. And I wouldn't say that Villa Angela St. Joe's kind of has it easy. They play a tough-nosed Benedictine team that they should be pretty familiar with, both from the North Coast League. And I don't think the North Coast League is actually getting enough credit. They have 3 teams from that conference who won a district with Cleveland Central Catholic, Villa Angela St. Joe's, and Benny. So that'll be interesting to see. And then the winner of that game gets, either Akron Booked or Poland Seminary, which is a game that I'll be at both of those games. And it'll be interesting to see in terms of matchups, kind of how that pans out. But I wouldn't be surprised to see Benny, Lake, not Lake, but, Benny, Jones, Booked. I could see any of those 4 teams kind of coming out of that region.
Excellent. Well, Stubbs, let's go to you next, and you get the parts of the state that nobody else wants. You get the your areas. You got Northwest, you got East, you got Southeast, and let's start with you with Division 1. 2 upsets. You got heavily favored Toledo Whitmer and Sylvania Northview, neither which of whom get to the regionals. Perrysburg over Northview, Toledo Start over Toledo Whitmer.
Yeah, I got to be honest. I was a little surprised that Whitmer did not get to the regional. Toledo. I'll start with Toledo Start. Toledo Start. This is kind of crazy. They won their first district in their 56-year history as a school, which is quite impressive. They've flew under the radar all year, really. I know they're 22-3, but I think people kind of maybe wrote them off a little bit, playing in a little bit of a watered-down city league in Toledo now. But they get the job done in a thriller, 31-30. I know that we would all like to have been in attendance for that one. Matt Wortham at Stark's done a great job there. This is only his third year. Devin Williams hit the game winner, not the Devin Williams from Cincinnati. Ends up with a total of 5 points, but hits the game winner with a little over 2 minutes to go in the game, and they hold on for a 31-30 win. I think myself and probably you guys as well thought Whitmer was going to be in a regional with Colbert and Soroka. They just had a great year, and I was a little bit shocked to see this final. And then in the other game in Division I, it was I'm not certain it was a major upset. Perrysburg lost to Northview twice in the regular season. I think one was by 15 and the other maybe 6. So they get the third crack at Northview, who was 23-0 coming into this game. But anybody that knows Perrysburg knows that Dave Boyce is one of the best coaches, not just in Northwest Ohio, but in the entire state. That guy can flat out coach. He's had several great teams over his course there at for the Jackets, just running into some heavyweights over the years up that way. But they started the second half of that game on a 17-0 run to kind of get some breathing room to hold on for that victory against previously undefeated Northview. They hold Northview to 37 points. Northview had not been held under 52 all year. Jackson Sizemore, 6'8" junior, had 16 and 8. Another junior, Zach Miller, had 16. So that bodes well for the future for Perrysburg, a couple of juniors. They hold Northview to 3 of 24 from 3. That's usually a good recipe for success. So those were the two games in Division I.
Okay, let's talk about you're a Division III, Division IV guy, Stubbs. So let's talk about Division III. Absolutely. So Division III, Cardinal Stritch beats Genoa area, and then you're going to be all over this. And let's just go ahead and talk about the elephant in the room. On this podcast, you said you liked Coldwater, although you also love Ottawa Glandorf. And Coldwater knocked off both Archibald and Ottawa Glandorf. So tell me about Coldwater, Cardinal Stritch pulling upsets.
Well, yeah, let's start with Cardinal Stritch. I mean, if you're just somebody that's glancing at scores around the state, and you see Cardinal Stritch beats Genoa area 55. I think it was 55-44 was the final. You'd think, pretty comfortable win for Stritch. But the story behind this is Joey Hollifield had to go the length of the floor and knocks down a 3-pointer to tie the game at 40 to send it to overtime, or Cardinal Stritch is out. So they end up winning this game by 11 in double overtime. Cardinal Stritch obviously is going to be a very difficult team in that region up there to beat. Little Anderson, Jordan Bennett, Joey Hollifield. That's a nice little trio of players at Stritch. So they get the job done in a game where so many times in the tournament history have teams made runs, and in the course of that run they had to survive a game, and this was one where Hollifield saves the day in regulation. So yeah, let's get to the real deal here. I was kind of in a win-win situation. Coldwater and Ottawa Glandorf.
Because you picked all 4 teams to win.
Yeah. I mean, so it was, and I know I sent you guys a message I had sent a gentleman earlier in the year, and I had seen Coldwater, and they were 7 and 8, and I was looking at some video, not on Spectrum, but I was looking at some video, and I was thinking to myself, my goodness, how is this team 7 and 8? This Cole Frilling can really shoot the ball, about 6'4". Marcus Bruns, a lefty guard, is really savvy, a real tough competitor. And I was thinking, man, this team is deep. They got size, they got shooters, they got guys that can handle it. How are they 7 and 8? But as you know, at Coldwater, that's a football and baseball kingpin up there in the Midwest Athletic Conference. So basketball,
Stovall ain't going up there.
Heck no. He can't hit that fastball. So shout out to Stovall, somewhere out there in Oregon today. But Coldwater, they floated through the regular season and they started to gain steam at the end of the year. You could see it starting to turn over. And I'm not even sure that I saw them once I saw that district pass of having to beat Archbold and then Ottawa Glandorf. I mean, that is a tall task. Those are the two, them and, added Lima Central Catholic. Those are the three elites up that way in Division III. And they find a way. Nick Richards' team finds a way to get it done. 70-67 over OG. Coldwater is going to be a tough out.
And then Division IV, what I call the Aaron Matthews region. We've got need like that. We've got Convoy Crestview. We're going to talk about them, their future, but their past. They needed double overtime against Kalida. And then in a really, really competitive district, you had St. Henry being the team to get out of there with Marion Local and Minster on their schedule.
Yeah, I mean, these were 2 or 4 really good teams that you just mentioned. Javen Etzler saves the day for Convoy Crestview. I was probably going to cash in my seat for the state tournament had he not put that down. So maybe Tuck could have had both seats if he wanted them. But Convoy, and I knew this was going to be a very tough game. Kalida is very good on defense. Ryan Stetscholde has done a marvelous job taking over for the legend Richard Dick Quartercracks up there at Kalida, a guy that coached into his 80s. So Convoy had to survive. And again, as I talked about with Cardinal Stritch, Etzler hit a shot last year against Hicksville in the district final to get him to the regional. He's a big time shot maker in the clutch. I know Kalen Etzler is a better prospect down the road for sure, and he's a really good player right now without a doubt. But Javen Etzler is the guy that hits the big shots for this team, and I still think that they are one of 2 or 3 of the favorites to cut the nets down in March. And then St. Henry is a team that has kind of flew under the radar, which is hard to do with their athletic pedigree that they have up that way. But they end up winning the Midwest Athletic Conference. This was the 3rd time they played Marion Local this year. They actually traded 5-point wins early in the season. Both teams with a 5-point W in back-to-back games, I believe they played each other. So St. Henry's gets Marion Local for the 3rd time in the district final. St. Henry's ends up winning that game. St. Henry's has had a really good season. I think they lost 4 starters off of 20-win season last year. Eric Rosenbeck, though, most people up that way will tell you he is one of the best coaches anywhere in Ohio. And he was able to get this St. Henry team to, I think they ended up winning they've won about 22 or 23 games this year, 22-3 actually. They are a very good senior-laden team. Their top 4 guys are seniors. They go by the names of Napke, Nykamp, and Seaman. So you know that they're going to come down with some size and some strength, and I will be surprised if they're not in Columbus.
There you go. That's perfect. Let me run through the Southwest region real quick, and then we'll get to previewing what's to come. So the first thing I want to talk about, Southwest region, Cincinnati Elder gets to a district final. A little bit of what might be argued as a weaker sectional down here, but things fell their way with Hamilton losing, with Walnut Hills losing, and they did have to beat Sycamore, but Elder does make it through. They struggled and were eventually knocked out by Springfield, who we'll talk about later. But that's one, Joe Schoenfeld never needs players. He just takes football guys and always finds a way to get it done and beat you in the 30s, and that's what they did. Next one, most people don't consider this an upset. I consider it to be a very minor one, which is that In the district final, Centerville beat Mason. You've got two really well-coached teams, very well-respected programs, play some similar styles, but Centerville was able to come up with a few more high IQ plays, few more defensive stops. Having an athlete in 6'9" Mo Njai really helped, but Mason, who started the season really, really hot, had a good year. Centerville gets by them. Not a whole lot of surprises in Division I down here. We'll talk about what's to come with Moeller and Lakota East shortly. Division II was the shocker. So you had Wyoming, Cincinnati Hughes, Cincinnati Taft, Dayton Chaminade Julian, all who had been ranked in the state for the majority of the year. Cincinnati Aiken, who had been ranked just a little part of the year, is the one that's still standing of those teams. They get past Wyoming. Then they beat Kettering Alter, who beat Dayton Chaminade Julian. Aiken is not going to be favored against Trotwood Madison, but they've got a senior guard, De'Aris Dean, who's been getting about 30 a night. Aiken trailed by 22 at the half to Alter, came back and won by double digits. So unbelievable second half for Aiken. And then we talked about Taft losing. Taft beat Hughes in the sectional final. They got up their championship belts, and then they went out and laid an egg against Dayton Northridge, who's a good team, but not on Taft's level in terms of raw talent. Northridge will play Columbus Bishop Hartley. Taft, with all those seniors, a team that Stubbs thought had a chance to get to the regional final and play Trotwood, as did I, ends up going down. Division III, again, probably not an upset, but Dayton Stivers beats Cincinnati Deer Park, two very similar teams that have a couple scores and then some role guys. Deer Park, after going undefeated and winning Division III state last year, did bring back a lot of guys, but couldn't quite get that rhythm together. And Dayton Stivers with the big, big win there to move on. They're going to have a puncher's chance in the Division III region along with Cincinnati Purcell Marion. And then Division IV, Legacy Christian at Xenia. I saw them early. I believe it was still December. Maybe it was early January. I saw them, good team. One of the premier young players in Ohio, in Mike Sharavjamps out of Mongolia. He's at Xenia Legacy Christian, and they got a really high seed. They're a good team, but they're probably just not quite ready. And Division IV down here, you've got a lot of those kind of country teams that have been together forever, and they end up knocking out Xenia Legacy Christian very early on. So that's the scoop down here. We got the other regions. Let's talk about now the regional tournament. So let's start here. We're going to start with Division IV, and we're going to move our way up. So, Kurt, Division IV is going to literally be all you. So let's start with the Kettering Region Division IV. I did see three of these four teams when I saw the district finals at UD Arena on Friday. Springfield Central Catholic athletic team, very different than the other teams in the region, play really hard. Saw a senior that they have that I was not familiar with heading into Friday night, named Sabian Doolittle, can really play. They're going to play St. Henry. And then you've got two rivals in the second regional semifinal, Jackson Center versus Fort Loramie. Who do you like in that region?
Well, you're right. Sabian Doolittle, very good player, Springfield Central Catholic. I look at that game and I look at St. Henry as a pretty clear favorite in that game. I think they've played a much more grueling schedule, and I just see St. Henry's physicality and size and their prowess on the defensive end to really shine through in this game. I could see them winning this game by double figures. Jackson Center and Fort Laramie. I would say, to be honest with you, the first team to 40 probably wins this game. Jackson Center has beat them twice this year, once 40-34, and the other time 39-36. So 40 is probably the magic number in this game. You could see this thing going either way. For the sake of Jackson Center winning both games by a combined, 9 points, I'll take Fort Laramie in the third matchup.
Okay, and I want to mention one kid real quick and get in to see their district final win. Jackson Center has a sophomore, about 6'4", 6'5", power forward named Aiden Reichert. If you haven't heard of him yet, you will, folks. really skilled player, strong, tough kid, scores in a bunch of different ways. And I think from what I saw in Fort Laramie and then in Jackson Center, I think he's the difference. And I like Jackson Center. Did not see St. Henry, but that's probably going to be the regional final. The Canton region for Division 4, the 4 teams, New Middletown, Springfield will play Greenwich South Central. And then the second matchup will be Bristol versus the team I have seen, team that's got a lot of talent and athleticism for Division 4 in Richmond Heights. Who comes out of that region?
Yeah, you look at the two teams, Bristol and New Middletown, Springfield, both come out of the same sort of area there in the Youngstown area or thereabouts. Those teams always have pretty successful regular season. It just seems like the matchups aren't great for them when they get to the Canton Fieldhouse. And this year, Richmond, I think Bristol is a very good team. They have a great winning pedigree at Bristol, something that a lot of people around the state might not know. But Richmond Heights, I just think it is too deep, too talented. I look for them to win this game comfortably. And then I look for Greenwich.
Their coaches with red.
Oh, yeah, Q Rogers. I wonder if he'll have the Mike and Ike's in the pocket for this one. Possibly. Big game. Greenwich South Central is a team that probably not a lot of people know a whole lot about. They actually finished second place in their league to a Division III team, Western Reserve, who beat them twice this year, both under 10 points. They also lost a 7-point game in overtime to Norwalk, who's still in the tournament, very good team. And D3 Waynedale beat them as well, which had a good season as well. So I think you're going to see South Central and Richmond Heights for this regional final, and I'm going to take Richmond Heights. Just has too much across the board for me to not pick them.
Bowling Green region, Division 4. A lot of Division I college talent in this one. You've got Columbus Grove versus Zeb Jackson and Maumee Valley Country Day. And you've got Hicksville versus Convoy Crestview with the Edsler brothers.
Yeah. Boy, that, I think everybody sees Maumee Valley Country Day and they think, Zeb Jackson is obviously very, very good. And they're playing very well right now. And it would be easy to probably just lazy, just kind of pick them because he's playing so well. And they have some other guys too. But do not count out this Columbus Grove team. They play in the same league with Convoy Crestview. Both teams only had one loss in the league. Crestview beat Columbus Grove. But if you look at it, I mean, Columbus Grove has been really hard to beat this year. They're 19-5 on the year. They've won 11 of their last 12. The only loss was the Convoy. 4 of those losses were by 7 points or less. The only other one was Convoy. They're led by a pair of sophomores, Blake Reynolds and Tate Bernesser. So, I think they're a very good defensive team. They only give up about 44 a game. I think I'm going to take Columbus Grove in the upset here. And in the other game, I really like Convoy Crestview. They handed Hicksville one of their 2 losses this year. I think it was by 25 maybe. So it might not be that much this time around. But I think you're going to see a Northwest Conference regional final here, Columbus Grove against Convoy Crestview. And I'm going to take Crestview. The Edsler brothers get a lot of the pub, but this is a senior-dominated team with Wade Sheets and Drew Klein and Javen Edsler. I'll take Convoy Crestview to get to state.
Last one for Division 4, Athens region. Dawson Bryant versus a team you're very familiar with. Been to Division 4 regions or states many times in Berlin Highland. And then you've got Bern Union versus New Boston Glenwood.
Yeah, this thing has really opened up in the last 2 years for Berlin Highland. Just a fantastic basketball school, boys and girls. Fantastic community. When the teams and the competitive balance shifted, and you took a lot of those Columbus teams up to Division III, Berlin Highland used to be in the Canton region for many, many years, that East District. Now they're down in Athens. And last year, I don't think they had a game within 30 points in the regional. They beat Peebles, I think, in the finals. I can't remember who they beat in the semis, but a lot of times their district with, like this year they played Rosecrans and Strasburg, which were two very tough games for them in the district. I think Cold Grove, Dawson Bryan is a pretty good team. Aaron Music's a very good player. But I think Berlin Highland is only giving up 36.5 points a game. Their only loss on the year was to Cleveland East Tech by 12. That was back on December 22nd. They've won 18 straight games. Yes, they've won 18 straight games. Mark Schlaball is a fantastic coach. He did it here. He did it at Loudonville before that. There's no way in my mind that Highland doesn't get out of here.
Excellent. Well, that's Division 4. Let's move on to Division 3. We'll start again in Kettering. Stubbs, you and me will go over this one together. I'm going to hit two teams. You hit two teams. So first matchup, Cincinnati Purcell Marion versus Versailles. Second matchup, Anna versus Dayton Stivers. I did see all four of these teams yesterday. First one is Purcell Marion, who I think is the huge favorite to win the region. What they have that teams don't have in Division 3 is size, with 3 starters over 6'4", 2 of them at least 6'6". They've got athleticism. They've got great defensive ability in the full court. And of those 8 guys, I think 7 of them are seniors. So they've got a lot of ability in that class. Alex Dodson, their point guard at about 6'3", 6'4", is a real problem for teams at that level. And he had a great game yesterday. I did see Versailles, not your Justin Aarons, Kyle Aarons Versailles team, but they're certainly in the mix. Anna versus Dayton Stivers is the game I think is more intriguing. Anna has a lot of discipline. They're a very well-coached team. The kid you'll remind me of is Drosick. Is a very good senior power forward at about 6'5". And then Dayton Stivers with a guard and Trayvon Ellis is a team that can play a little faster. They're probably going to try and disrupt Anna like that. However, Anna got past Cincinnati Clark Montessori, who plays a similar style yesterday. Stivers maybe has a little bit more talent, but I do like probably Stivers or Anna. That's a close game. I'll maybe go with Anna, but I definitely like Purcell Marion. I definitely like Purcell Marion to get out of the region. Real quick, Stubbs, do you have any thoughts on those?
Yeah, I just wanted to mention Versailles real quick. Travis Swank has done a great job with this team. You lose a guy at that size of school that ends up at Ohio State. They were 6th place in the MAC this year. And that's a league with Coldwater and St. Henry, Marion Local, Alpha St. John's. 6th place, and they are in the regional. But I would agree with you. I like Purcell Marion in the one semifinal, and personally, I like Stivers in the other one.
Okay. Let's move on to the Canton region. We're going to bring TJ Peatross back in. Stubbs, you can maybe comment as well. 3 of these 4 teams are kind of country teams. You've got, I hope I'm saying this right, Mogador versus Ashtabula Edgewood, who has been one of the most highly ranked teams in the AP all year. And then the second game, you've got Orville versus the most talented team on paper in that region, Cleveland Lutheran East. TJ, what do you see happening here?
I went up for the Lutheran East matchup against Elyria Catholic, who, by the surprise to me, upset Warrensville Heights. I was kind of expecting, an LEL, district title match. But just one takeaway from Lutheran East, you said it. I mean, they're just so athletic. And what's scary about that team is they returned their top 8 guys next season. A kid who really stood out to me, who's kind of been turning it on this year, especially about the midway point, is junior Nehemiah Benson. I believe against Elyria Catholic, he was 10 for 10 from the floor, 5 of 6 from the free throw line. He was just absolutely incredible. Sophomores EJ Farmer and Jalen Billingsley have been kind of up and down with injuries, but both of those guys are back playing. Unfortunately, they lost a junior, Davion Adams, who appeared to be out injured as well. So they've kind of hit some road bumps, but it's hard for me to imagine anyone else coming out of this region. I know Coach Swartz up at Mogador does a really good job. His son is a junior point guard, who really shoots the ball. I had a chance to see him a few times when he was a freshman. So there's definitely some very well-coached teams in there. And I know Orville is having just kind of a heck of a year in general. Correct me if I'm wrong, Stubbs, but I believe they won the state championship in football this year, and to take a lot of those kids and make the regional tournament, that's an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah, you're correct on that. They did win the Division V state football championship, and just to kind of piggyback off of TJ here, the other team in this region, and they're not getting a whole lot of pub, is Ashtabula Edgewood. They only have one loss on the season. That's a 68-60 overtime loss to Poland Seminary, who is in the Division II regional almost yearly. Big fans of Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's, by the way. Ashtabula Edgewood, one loss. This is a senior-dominated team, about 4 or 5 seniors that I believe 4 of them were on the first 3 teams of the all-district. So this is an experienced team with one loss, with a pedigree of winning, obviously, with just the one overtime loss. If you're looking for a sleeper, maybe to stop Lutheran East run to Columbus, Edgewood might be that team.
Okay. Let's move on to Bowling Green here. Bowling Green. Oh, go ahead, TJ.
Yeah, there's one thing I just kind of want to get off my chest. We talk about a lot of these matchups. I'm looking at just kind of the schedule. On Wednesday in Northeast Ohio, we have a whopping 7 games, all on the same night. So normally you get Division III and Division IV, Division II, Division I, all kind of spread out. Well, I guess there were some weird conflict issues in terms of venue. So unfortunately, we had the doubleheader at Cleveland State for the D1. We have Joe's, Benny, Buchtold, Poland at the Canton Civic Center. And then we have the Division III matchups all at the Canton Fieldhouse, along with Akron St. Vincent Mary against Olmsted Falls. All of those games are happening on the same night in Northeast Ohio.
We'll get Snodgrass on the phone later. We'll take care of it. That doesn't work. I hear you. So let's run through these other 2 Division III ones real quick, and then we'll get to the big boys. Stubbs, I want you to hit 3 of these teams, and then we'll let Zach or Jason take care of the 4th one. In the Bowling Green region, Division III, you've got Willard versus Coldwater, and then you've got Toledo Cardinal Stritch versus Grandview Heights.
Yeah, Coldwater Willard's going to be an interesting game. Willard has won a lot of games in a row. I think they closed the regular season on a 14-game winning streak, so that's probably at about 17 or 18 right now. I still like Coldwater in that regional semifinal game. I'll let Zach touch base on Grandview Heights and Toledo's Oregon. It's actually Oregon Cardinal Stritch. Grandview Heights, saw them the other night, and with those 2 guards, Brian Collier and Manny Day, along with a guy as versatile as Luke Lachey. I mean, he can do pretty much anything. He's kind of a point forward type guy. He's a menace on defense too. Man, I'll tell you what, Grandview Heights is a real threat in this region to me.
Well, Zach, tell us about Grandview Heights.
I agree. That's a squad. They didn't win their conference. The MSL Ohio division is really tough. You got Grandview, you got Bexley, Whitehall, Worthington Christian, and Columbus Academy. And out of those, you had 3 teams that played for district finals. And I think that combined with their non-conference schedule, which is always pretty tough, had them ready for March. They took some lumps in the regular season when Lachey was out. Ever since he's came back, these guys have been on fire. Their last game they lost was the Columbus Academy, a game that Mara and I actually went to, where they had dominated really for about 3/4 of that game, and the wheels fell off in the 4th quarter. They seem to hit their stride right now. The win over Worthington Christian in the district semifinals was huge. That was a team that had really shut them down in the second matchup, and ever since then, it just seems like they've got their footing. Manny Day has continued to improve throughout the season. Brian Collier is a tough point guard who hits the pull-up jumper as well as about anybody in this area.
Zach, is he a on-ball or off-ball point guard?
He is an on-ball point guard. and when he takes charges, they get called too. So big fan of his game. Big fan of Manny Day as well. And then like Stubbs had mentioned, Luke Lachey, he is a Stubbs special. He gets a new high major football offer just about every 5 hours. And I'm just waiting on Ohio State to finally, offer him. But those three, those are the guys, but they're going to need some, other guys outside of those three to really advance in this tournament. I think a guy that could be someone that steps up is Lance Trays. He is a 6'5" forward, can stretch the floor. He was really impressive defensively against Jake Lusk of Johnstown, really battled with him on the inside. And there's another guy they have, a junior, Charlie James, who really didn't score at all in the regular season, then stepped up in that win over Worthington Christian, knocked down 3 huge triples in the first half. If they can get something out of him and something out of Lance alongside those, those big three that they have, I think this could be a team. They were the 6th seed in their own district. It could be a team that maybe makes a Cinderella run and possibly can get back to Columbus.
Last region for Division III, Athens region. Stubbs hit us with 3 of these teams, and then Zach could take the last one. Wheelersburg, very good team with Wright State signing Tanner Holden versus Sandy Valley. And you've got Frankfurt Adena versus the team that Zach's going to talk about, the likely favorites, maybe the favorite to win the state, along with a team like Purcell Marion or Lutheran East in Columbus or Canal Winchester, if you want to be technical, Harvest Prep. Stubbs, what do you think?
Yeah, I saw Wheelersburg and Frankfurt Adena about a little over a week ago. Wheelersburg, obviously undefeated. Tanner Holden will be arguably the best player in this quartet of teams. They have another really good sophomore in JJ Truitt. I don't know if their guards are good enough to get out of this region. I think this game against Sandy Valley is going to be very tough. Sandy Valley is kind of surprising. Sandy Valley, the home of one Jeffrey Bowles.
Sure.
I believe he averaged 35 points a game as a senior, Big Jeff. Shout out to Coach Bowles.
Podcast alum.
Sandy Valley really came on at the end of the year. They have some big kids, pretty solid at guard. They beat up on Garaway pretty good in the district final, a team that took Harvest Prep to overtime in a regional final last year. I could see this game going either way. And then Sandy Valley actually upset Meadowbrook, who's the team I thought would be in this regional semifinal game. They were in the D2 state semis last year. And then Frankfurt Adena, they won their first district since 1980. Zach Fouts is 1,000-point scorer for them. I don't know if they got their point guard back yet. He's a sophomore. They will certainly need him against Brandon Beavers and CJ Anthony. Sol Hines come up huge the other night for Harvest Prep. These 3 teams will be up against the Prep. I'll just say that.
So Zach, tell us about how good Harvest Prep can be.
Harvest Prep's been so good this season. They haven't lost a game in Ohio. They've lost 2 games this season. Actually, the first game they lost is kind of funny. It was all the way out in Missouri to Kettering Fairmont in a holiday tournament. So they drove 10 hours away to lose to a team they could have driven an hour away from. But Harvest Prep's dominant squad. They finally had their first bit of adversity in the district final against Columbus Academy. They were taken down to the wire. Academy had a shot to win that game late, and Harvest Prep, made the clutch plays that they needed to down the stretch. And CJ Anthony didn't have his greatest game in that district final, but I was really impressed with Sol Hines. He scored 14 points in crunch time in about the last 9 minutes of the game, knocked down 4 crucial threes. Every time Columbus Academy took a lead, he seemed to respond with the big three-pointer to take the lead right back for Harvest Prep. This is a squad. CJ Anthony is really the only non-senior in the rotation. They've been there before. They've won 4 district titles since 2014. They were 28-0 last year before they lost to Afrocentric in the state semifinal. I think they're going to go back to Columbus. CJ Anthony is just a big-time leader, and I think the most underrated guard in Central Ohio is Brandon Beavers. If he was the top guard in any other team, I think he would probably be a little more highly recruited and ranked among the state, the top guards in the state. But with this team, he plays an excellent role. He plays off the ball. He's not an off-ball point guard, but he can play off the ball. I really am impressed with the way he defends out in the perimeter. He's elite quickness and speed in the open floor, and just a great pesky defender that was probably their MVP on both sides of the ball in that district title win over Columbus Academy. Harvest Prep's a team, they can slow it down, they can speed it up. Coach David Dennis is one of the elite coaches in Central Ohio. These guys, they run, probably 30, 40 different plays, and they can play in any tempo, and they're just really disciplined, and, they know how to win. They're already down there in Athens practicing right now, and he's going to have those guys ready. So I think, they probably have the best shot of all four of these teams to win, but, don't be surprised if someone like Wheelersburg takes them down in a regional final. That was a regional semifinal matchup a year ago that I went to, and Tanner Holden really gave Harvest Prep all they could handle. His primary defender in that game was C.J. Pena, who competed as well as he could have. Harvest Prep doesn't have another guy like that this year, so that could be a matchup to watch out for if they do get Wheelersburg in the regional final.
Well, the correct terminology in basketball, if you can play fast or play slow, Stubbs taught us, is they can dance to all the tunes. Is that correct, Morrow? Mm-hmm. That's what Stubbs told us about a team we're going to talk about a little bit in Division One. So add that to your repertoire, Flair.
Hey, Corey, can I ask Zach something real quick?
Do we need to take a break for you to advertise for Black Tux, or are you going to ask the question?
No. It does have something to do with a guy that wears a tux. Flair, how awesome is it when Coach David Dennis shouts at his 47 assistants and then they yell out the play? It's like a church choir when they're in unison.
I love it. Yeah, no, those guys. He's got some great assistants. They seem to have a new coach every single game. That bench gets longer, with every game that I see those guys. But Coach Dennis is one of the best. He's a great guy, and someone that I'm, fortunate enough to call a friend. So shout out to his son too, Nova Southeastern. They're the 1 seed in the Florida Regional there in the Division II national tournament. They may be able to bring home a national title. Hopefully, they can make up for the loss that they took when David was a senior in the state title, and that was the last time Harvest Prep actually played for a state title back in 2015. Convoy Crestview got them. So I'm hoping Harvest Prep can, redeem themselves and maybe win it all this year.
Division II, let's keep it moving. Division II, TJ, let's start Canton region. You've got some talent here. You've got Cleveland Villa Angela St. Joe's versus Cleveland Benedictine. This is not your previous VASJ teams with the high major Division I talent, but they've still got some guys. In the second game, you've got the most talented player in the region, one of the most talented players in the state, an Akron-Buchtel freshman, Chris Livingston, taking on Poland Seminary. Of those four teams, who do you like to get out?
I think Stubbs said it best when he said you just don't bet against Babe Kwasniak in March. And unfortunately, Babe is a friend of mine, so I get to talk to him quite a bit and hear his tirades. And he's been all over the place on this team. He tells me they stink, and he tells me they're good. Babe is like a used car salesman. He never wants you to think they're as good as they are, and he never wants you to think they're as bad as they are.
So he's kind of like George Howard.
I was waiting on that. I was expecting Morrow, though.
Morrow's over here laughing.
Yeah, but this is honestly, to me, this is the most competitive region in Northeast Ohio. I think with Division III and Division IV, we kind of have some clear-cut favorites. But with this region, I honestly can't make a pick. My gut says the winner, of the Villa Angela St. Joe's Benedictine game does go to Columbus. But Poland Seminary historically is a team that you just can never really count out. I think they have one of the best coaches in Northeast Ohio. And without St. Vincent St. Mary, being in that district or in that regional kind of opens things up a little bit. And I'll just be interested to see, how a really, really young Buchtel team, handles the experience. Poland Seminary has two good seniors. I forget their names, and this is going to kill me. I know one kid is going to Youngstown State for baseball. He's a really, really savvy player, would definitely be a good small college prospect if he opted to play basketball. And I think they have another senior named Daniel Kramer. So Poland Seminary does have some players, and it's going to be interesting to see how Buchtel, responds to that kind of environment. You mentioned Chris Livingston. They have a sophomore, Tay Paris, who's been really shooting the ball well this year. Noah Peebles, both him and Paris came over from St. Vincent, St. Mary. So it's going to be a fun region, and that's where you'll be able to catch me at on Wednesday.
Okay. The Bowling Green region has teams from everywhere, so we're going to do this. TJ, you go first. We've got Cleveland Central Catholic versus Lima Shawnee. Then we've got Columbus South versus Norwalk. So, TJ, tell us about Central Catholic and what you know about Norwalk and Lima Shawnee. Zach will tell us about Columbus South, and then Stubbs can clean up anything we're missing.
Yeah, with Cleveland Central Catholic, I just want to take some time to applaud what Coach Jordan Duke is doing over there. They were a team, lost a lot from last year and even, more from the year before that. But Cleveland Central Catholic is just a really, really big team. They have about 3 or 4 kids who go 6'4", all the way up to 6'7". They have a really good guard named Tevin Jackson who came over from St. Ignatius. He does as good a job as anybody in Northeast Ohio. Just kind of running an offense, getting guys in their spots. So I'm not familiar with Lima Shawnee, but I'd be willing to put some money on it that Cleveland Central Catholic will probably be the biggest and most athletic team that they've played this year.
Okay, and then Zach, what about Columbus South versus Norwalk? I know you don't know much about Norwalk. Probably they've got a really good combo guard in Brandon Haraway, who is going to Ashland, and Columbus South has a lot of talent.
Yeah, with South, they're 25-1, defending City League champs. They've won back-to-back district titles here in Columbus, and this is the first time that they've gone to Bowling Green. They've made the district final 5 years in a row. Last 2 times they'd went to Dayton and lost in the regional semifinals. Coach Ramon Spears is looking for his first regional tournament victory, and he likes his chances. This is the first time that he was the 1 seed and was able to go where he wanted and, not just go for a district title. So he's excited for this team. They barely got by a Bishop Watterson team that led late in the game and then kind of let the game go in the last few minutes with the bad technical, a couple of bad shots and possessions here and there, and South was able to, regain the lead and never let it go. They had a bad week of practice last week, so I'm assuming Spears is probably using their district final performance as an example for why they got to practice better, and I'm assuming that they're going to come out and be better this week. This is a squad that is really guard heavy. Trey Watkins is a senior who's had a great year. He's evolved from being a scorer first point guard to more of a facilitator, and since he's done that, this team's been better. They're going to need more from junior Marcus Johnson. He's the most talented kid on the team, not always the most productive. They need him to play to his potential in order for them to get as far as they want to go. And 2 senior guards that I've been impressed with this season that have really improved are Travell Adams and Taquan Symington. Both of them are pretty big-time athletes and guys that always give max effort. Travell's been really good off the bench. He's their 6th man, kind of gives them new energy when he gets in the game and can do a lot of things on both ends. And then Taquan is just a motor guy that just plays hard. Probably their best scorer off the bounce. Him and Watkins both share that title. And he's really disruptive defender that you can put on the best player in opposing teams, and he gets the job done. So it's going to be a tough task. Last time I saw Norwalk was against Bishop Watterson in 2014 in the state title. So it's been a long time, but they're always a well-coached bunch, and it's going to be a difficult matchup. I'm hoping South can redeem Beechcroft, who went up there and lost to Bay last year in the regional semifinals. So hopefully we can get a game up in Bowling Green to maybe challenge to get back to the state in D2.
I saw South last year. They won their district in Division II and came down to the Southwest Regional, and they lost to Trotwood, who was really explosive last year as they are this year. But I remember talking to you before the game on text, and you giving me a couple young guys and telling me, they're probably a year away, and then they've had a great season and are one of the best teams in the city of Columbus. Forget about division. Athens Region, Division II. Stubbs, one's all you. You've got Steubenville versus Thornville Sheridan. You've got New Philly versus Chillicothe Zane Trace. One of these teams somehow mysteriously took out St. Clairsville. Who do you like among these 4 teams?
Real quickly, I just want to give a little love to Lima Shawnee before I move on to the Lima Shawnee obviously is playing in a region where Columbus South probably the team that's got the most pub this year. Shawnee plays in the Western Buckeye League with Ottawa, Glandorf, Elida, Defiance, Van Wert. So you're looking at teams that when they get down to state, these WBL teams perform. So Lima Shawnee's best player is a sophomore, George Mangus. They also have a kid named Tyson Elwer, Johnny Caprella, and a kid named Sheridan O'Neill. So this Shawnee team has only lost 2 games this year. One was by 5 to St. Henry, who's still alive in Division 4. And then they also lost to Ottawa Glandorf, which was their only loss in the conference. So Mark Triplett's done a great job with Shawnee. Just wanted to kind of give them a shout out because they've had a great year. And I just know that the pedigree that the WBL has, they will perform. So, but as for the Athens region, this was the region that St. Clairsville was supposed to be one of the final 4 teams in, but unfortunately John Glenn ended their season last week. So we instead we get Steubenville, better known for their football and baseball prowess, but they do traditionally have good. Yeah, they do have a very good basketball history though. They were actually in the region in 2016. They lost to DeSales before DeSales got beat by John Glenn. But this should be an interesting game. Sheridan coming out of the Muskingum Valley League. Steubenville just took out the winner of the Muskingum Valley League, which was John Glenn. They beat them in the districts by 3. I'm going to lean a little bit towards Steubenville here. I know their guys will not be they will not be anxious about the atmosphere down there at the Convo. So I just look for those guys to come out and play. Ethan Heller's a great player for Sheridan, just an absolute competitor. They will have the best player in the game, which makes it very difficult for me to take Steubenville, but I am going to. I think Steubenville has more across the board. And in this new Philly Zane Trace game, I think Zane Trace is still a year away, even though they're in the region. Their first 5 are all juniors. Gary Kello is the coach there. He won the 2008 state title with Chillicothe. With that bunch with Humpty Hitchens and Ray Chambers, beat Toledo Libby that year. He is now the coach at Zane Trace. They're all underclassmen starters, so they're playing with house money right now. And then the team that I think is going to get out of here, their defense is just absolutely fantastic. They shoot the ball very well. New Philadelphia, I think you're going to see them in Columbus.
Okay, excellent. Last Division II region, Kettering. Trotwood, Madison, they've won the last 2 Division II regions down here, have been one of the favorites to win in the state tournament, but have not been able to get that done, versus Cincinnati Aiken, who we talked about, has been ranked in the AP poll, but with some of the heavy hitters down here, they're a little bit of an upset to get here. And then you've got Columbus, Bishop Hartley with Morgan Safford, who Zach already mentioned, versus Dayton Northridge, who upset Taft. Let's talk about the second game first. I don't know a whole lot about Hartley, but I know on paper they're going to be favored versus Northridge. Northridge is a tough team, upset-minded team. Senior guard Twan Hines is having a great senior season. Had about 20-plus against Taft, including 5 or 6 free throws in a row to win the game. But I do think Hartley is going to be a favorite there. Trotwood Madison, they're averaging about 100 a game. They've been blowing everybody out. Amari Davis is averaging 30. He's a senior. They've got a junior in Carl Blanton averaging north of 22, 23 a game. They've got a 6'6", 6'7" big and Justin Stevens, who's a grown man on the block. And they've got some other guys. They got Malachi Mathis, who shoots the ball. They got a football kid, Sammy Anderson, who really helps run the point guard, is a really tough defender. They can play full court. They're not as bad in the half court as people think. They're so good defensively with their bodies. They have been susceptible to coming out and laying an egg in Columbus, but that has not happened at Trent Arena. Trent Arena is where they usually play their best basketball. And on Thursday night when they play the regionals, it's going to feel like you're playing at Trotwood Madison. That being said, Cincinnati Aiken, co-tri-champs in the Cincinnati City League with Aiken, with Hughes and Taft. Sophomore Jakata Stone is one of the best point guards in Ohio. I've talked about him many times online as a kid. I think is going to blow up this year. They've got a 6'8" kid named Tremaine Noodle Smith. he is going to have a big game against Justin Stevens. They've got a freshman guard in Robbie Cass, son of Coach Ty Cass. And we talked about earlier De'Aris Dean having a great year. The one thing I want to mention real quick is in his third year on the job, Ty Cass took over an Aiken team. They had just gone to the Final Four, but they graduated 3 of the 4 good players on that team, and the other one transferred. So he was coming back with absolutely nothing, didn't win many games. Last year, they have an okay record, but they do advance all the way in an upset to the sectional final. And then this year, they're all the way in the region. He has done just a hell of a job there, deserves all the credit. Still, when you look at them playing Hughes and Taft, Aiken got it done. They split both of those teams. They beat Wyoming. They beat Alter. They're here, but they don't have quite the talent. So want to really give them a lot of credit in that game. But I do think Troutland Madison is the huge, huge favorite to make it to Columbus. And you could argue that they're the favorite for the state championship. Let's do Division I now, and let's start in Columbus. Zach, Pickerington North versus Newark. Again, we've got some teams here in Columbus that are a little bit of a surprise. Pickerington North versus Newark, a team that's never a surprise. They always seem to be here. Pickerington Central versus Olentangy Liberty, and Liberty might have the best scorer in the Central Ohio area right now, especially in Division I.
Yeah, starting with Newark, this is for Jeff Quackenbush, his first district title since 2015, and this is a surprise. This squad graduated, JT Shoemate, who's ended up being arguably, if not the best player in the GMAC conference, as a true freshman. When you lose that score, as well as Hunter Antritt was another kid. Antonio Watson was a senior that was, the starting point guard last year, had a pretty good season. They lost all those guys. They're starting 2 guys who didn't even dress varsity last year. Their top defender, top playmaker, Bobby Crenshaw. This is his first season of organized basketball, and they're in the district finals. They won. They're in the regional semifinals now. It's pretty incredible. When this team lost to Canal Winchester, the first meeting, we all thought, okay, this isn't the same Newark team. These guys, aren't where they have been. And then it just seemed like in the play-by-play classic, they took Bradley down to the wire. They only lost by 1 in that game. It seemed like they started getting their footing under them. Then they beat Canal Winchester pretty badly, and they beat a Walnut Ridge team that was very tough in the district semifinals, and then rolled past an Olentangy Orange team that took down the top-seeded Kaufman. Newark's a tough squad. They're very young. They only have 2 seniors in their rotation. One that starts is Keyshawn Hurd, who has really evolved as a leader this year. I've been impressed with him. He's been the most consistent that he's been in his career. He's blocking shots. He's rebounding. He's hitting the mid-range jumper. He's posting up and scoring through contact. I've been really impressed with the way he's improved, and he's playing the best basketball of his career. They have a couple sophomores who are very good. Drew Ballinger is a player that throughout the tournament, into the regular season, he couldn't buy a bucket. He went 0 for 7 from 3 in the district semifinal against Walnut Ridge. And then the district final, he goes 6 for 8 from 3. He hits 4 straight triples in the first quarter. That helped Newark go on a 14-5 run that broke the game open against Olentangy Orange. That kid, deadly spot-up shooter. He's about 6'2". He can score it off the bounce a little bit, and he's just a tough, coachable kid that he really is the epitome of what Newark basketball is. And then Cade Bafford, he started every single game at the point guard position as a freshman last year, and then again as a sophomore. Just a tough, gritty kid. Plays both ends of the floor, but he's really good defensively. Against Walnut Ridge, he actually guarded Von Cameron Davis in the first half, helped hold him to 4 points and took a couple charges on him. So that's a guy that tough as hell. And again, it's just Newark basketball is the same every single year. They're just a different type of program. And Coach Quackenbush is, in my opinion, the best coach in Central Ohio. I think he gets the most out of his guys, and he takes whatever he has and, breeds a winner year after year. Now, they're going up against a Pick North team who, on paper, and arguably the most talented team in the district. Pick Central is the favorite, but North beat them. That's their only team that has beaten the Tigers this year. They're going to be favored against Newark. The Wildcats really don't have a matchup for Jack Sawyer. Keyshawn Hurd's going to guard him, but Jack is just too physical for just about anybody, and I see that being a difficult matchup for Newark. A guy that's not getting enough praise for North right now is Chris Scott. He's a football prospect, but on the high school basketball scene, he's a great player for that team. He's the glue guy. He does all the dirty work for him, and he's an elite-level athlete. high major wide receiver, but he gets the job done on the basketball floor. I've really been impressed with Hunter Shedenhelm all season long. 6'4". He's their best perimeter defender. He knocks down shots from all over the floor. They just have a whole cast of guys. Coach Bates has done a pretty good job coaching these guys this year. They bounced back from last year's really debacle in the district semifinals against Mount Vernon with all the talent that they had. They win the district, and in my opinion, I think we could see another Pick Central, Pick North regional final. And, with Central not having Jeremiah Francis and Sterling Manley this time around, it could be the year where North maybe gets over the hump. On the other side, Pick Central against Olentangy Liberty. This is going to be a great regional semifinal game. It's the best program in the area against the best player. Ben Roderick has helped lead Olentangy Liberty to their first district title since 2012. He missed the tournament last year when he tore his ACL, and those guys really fell off the track. So it was important for him to, get back on the hardwood and lead those guys deep. Because when he was a junior, he actually led them to the state Final Four in football, and they didn't get the job done down there. So I know he's trying to redeem himself here on the basketball hardwood. The seniors there for Liberty have played together for the last 9 years. They have a ton of chemistry. Morrow loves this team. He thinks that it might be their year, that it might be the special team to make it out. Morrow can speak about him a little bit, but I just really love the cast of seniors that they have. Nick McCashian has been a kid that has really stepped it up this year and been more efficient than ever. And then they just have role players, like Joey Thatcher as a point guard.
Morrow is giving the I'm going to speak sign, which is rare, Flair. So let's see what he's got.
All right, let's see it.
No, I just really think that this Liberty team is one of those, kind of along those lines of the Upper Arlington 2014 team where it's just kind of things click at the right moment. And I think that Ben and Nick, Nick Nicasian as a 1-2 punch can lead you very far. I think they can get to the shot. But like you said, Zach, that Pickerington Central game is going to be a really tough one.
Yeah, Central's got all types of guys that they can throw at Ben. I think you could see Javon Garcia matching up with them. JG is just a competitor and just a tough kid that came from the City League, used to be an Independence as a freshman, and he's really evolved over the last couple of years for the Tigers. When Jeremiah Francis went down before his junior season, JG had to step up and be the guy, and that's what he's done. And he's even taken to another level this year. But it's not just him. Colton Landis has been a very important piece of that team. And their loss to North, Landis was out, and they really had no matchup for Jack Sawyer. Jack got any shot that he wanted. If they do match up again with North, you can expect to see Landis. He's physical and strong enough to bump with Jack. I don't know if he's quick or athletic enough for him, but that's a much better matchup than El Hadji Thyme, who's just not big enough, or Garner Wallace, who, again, is just not thick and strong enough. But the Tigers are loaded. Garner Wallace is a sophomore that has really stepped it up. When Jay Rogers and Sam Townsend ruled ineligible, that's a kid that was kind of buried on the bench that stepped up and really, from the opening tip in this first game, blew the doors off the scene. And was a kid that just arrived out of nowhere, had 30 points against Garfield Heights in Play-by-Play Classic, and people really started to respect his game. I like their guards. They just have a cast of guys who play their roles and just know how to play and contribute to the team. Connor Maciag's another kid that I like off the bench. He can knock down shots. He fits within the system really well. Kalik Walker's a kid. He's never going to put up the big scoring numbers, but on the defensive end, he gives you a lot. He guarded Ben Fort and did a terrific job in the district finals this past weekend. He's another role player for that team, and I think Eric Kruger doesn't get enough credit. I mean, they've won 7 district titles in the last 8 years. He's been the coach for those since 2014, so that's 5 out of the last 6 years where he's been the head coach. They're back-to-back regional champs, and they just seem to get the job done. They don't take big losses. They don't get upset. And in this area, they just dominate. No one has beaten them in the tournament in this area since Westerville South back in 2016 when they went on to win the state title. So as Tigers team, they're number one until further notice. But if we do get a rematch with North, I think that could be intriguing with, the Panthers taking them down already and having some confidence there.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to do the Kettering region, then we'll let TJ wrap up the final two. Kettering region, speaking of success, you've got Cincinnati Moeller has won 12 of the last 13 district finals. They've played in it the last 13 years and only lost once. And another varsity head coach told me the other day when TJ was with me, we were watching him, and he said, you've got a good program when you win the district final and your fans don't even stay to watch you cut down the nets. And that's how successful Mower's been. But they're facing the team who I think is unquestionably the second best team in Southwest Ohio Division I and a top 5 to 7-8 team in the state of Ohio Division I in Lakota East. And then you've got Springfield versus Centerville. Now I'm going to start with East Moeller. Moeller has not lost a game this season. They have not lost a game to a team from Ohio since the 2017 state championship game. They're going to be heavy favorites. That being said, Lakota East played them tough at the the middle of January in a game on a neutral court, and East is only playing better since losing 6-7 Alex Mangold. East has been on a tear, kind of playing for him. Bash Wieland has been as good as anybody, not only in the Southwest region, but in the state of Ohio, having an unbelievable senior season, can score in a lot of different ways. But with Moeller, he's going to face some great individual defenders. The key for Lakota East is how long can their guys hold up? They only play 5 kids. Their other seniors are tough kids. Grant Spicer's a kid who the Division III schools are recruiting. He's a really tough interior kid, has played basically the de facto center without Mangold. And then the other kid for them that's huge in terms of needing production against Moeller is 6'2" combo guard Nate Johnson, a sophomore, maybe the most athletic sophomore in the state of Ohio, has that $1 million frame, putting together the basketball IQ. He's come a long way since the beginning of the season. They're going to need him to be huge on both ends of the floor if they're going to beat Moeller. For Moeller, they're obviously the favorite in the region. Deuce McBride and Alec Frame are maybe the best 1-2 punch in Ohio. Deuce McBride, despite only averaging 15 points a game, I think should be in the Mr. Basketball conversation. He can dominate a game with only taking 4 or 5 field goal attempts. Elite defender. Alec Frame is their leading scorer. He's maybe 16 points, maybe 1 point ahead of Deuce. Really good off ball, cuts to the rim, gets back doors, plays in their offense. Really good score. And then Moeller just has so many guys. And again, Lakota East having 5. Moeller's got about 9 guys who can really play. Their sophomore class is stepping up as the season goes. Alex Williams is a little banged up right now. At least that's how he looks Saturday, but continues to be one of the better players in this region. Will McCracken, who was banged up at the beginning of the year, is getting his bounce back. He's a great athlete. And then you've got Logan Duncombe inside at 6'8", 6'9", who is going to be a problem. Then in the second matchup, Springfield versus Centerville. Centerville's hot. They're a team that Stubbs loves, as he should. Very, very disciplined. Got a lot of guards. They play 8 or 9 kids. All but one of them is a senior. The non-senior is 6'9" Mo Njai. Probably the best shot blocker down here. Again, maybe the state of Ohio. Has a lot of big offers already and is an elite rim protector and rebounder, but not much of a threat to score. They're a deliberate team. They're going to shoot the ball well, and they're going to play a very meticulous style, whereas Springfield is the most athletic team in this region, even more athletic than a team like Moeller. Raheem Moss is a senior who's having a big year, really versatile, powerful athlete, tough kid. And when you look at Springfield, sometimes their kids can just basically intimidate the opponents, and that's what they do in the G-Walk. They did beat Centerville earlier this year. I think that game will be a one-possession game. I'm going to give Centerville the slight edge, but nothing would surprise me there. And the other factor is, even though it's probably about 80 minutes from their campus, Cintas Center is going to be rocking with Springfield fans. They always travel very well. So I'll take Centerville by a bucket. I'll take Moeller by about maybe 8, and then I think Moeller will be able to get by whoever wins that Springfield-Centerville game. TJ, you got 2 regions up your way. Let's do Cleveland real quick. We've got Menor. They're probably going to be favored versus Uniontown Green. And then you've got Euclid versus a team we haven't talked about yet, which is Lakewood St. Edward.
Yeah, so that Menor Uniontown Green game, I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. So you guys here in the front, you guys know who Kyle is. I can guarantee that Kyle's going to be front and center for that matchup. I think it's going to be a battle between guards. Caleb Merritt out of Uniontown Green might be one of the best seniors in Ohio when you're speaking of just straight high school players. He's coming off of a monster game. I believe he had 35 points against Master Jackson. What turned out to be a lopsided win with league rivals. And then Mentor's got the junior Luke Floria. Stubbs, I believe he's a pretty good wide receiver. But he's been having a monster season this year. He's had a few games well over 30 points. And then the sophomore Luke Chacon, who might be my favorite player to watch in Northeast Ohio. So I think that's going to be a game that's going to be fun. It should be up and down with two teams who are from, in my opinion, the two best coached conferences in Northeast Ohio. Euclid and St. Ed's is a game I mentioned earlier when it comes to the guard play. You have junior Garvin Clark out of Euclid, who's about explosive as a junior as you'll find in Ohio. He'll have a total task with Demetrius Terry and Monterey Foster, two of the better on-ball defenders in my area. So that game could be interesting. I know, like I said, Euclid's been very up and down, but so is St. Ed's, especially towards the second half of the season. But I think experience wins out in that one. And I think with the bright lights, I think St. Ed's is a team that's obviously been there before. And I think they find a way to get it done. And I honestly feel like they find a way to get out of that region and make it down to Columbus.
I tend to agree with you on that. Mentor's a dangerous team, but Lakewood St. Ed's is a team that always finds their way in March, and they're going to be very, very dangerous. Akron Toledo region, you've got Lima Senior versus Toledo Start, and then you've got the perennial Columbus visitors, Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's versus Olmsted Falls. St. V's probably the favorite, but what do you think about this region?
I had a chance to go out to the University of Toledo, and I watched Toledo Start just completely dismantle Toledo St. Francis, a team that had just beat them by 25 points 2 weeks prior to that game. So that was an interesting outcome that kind of caught a lot of people out there by surprise. I'm not sure the coach's name out at Toledo Start. I believe Stubbs mentioned it earlier. But I was just completely blown away by, one, how hard those kids played, and two, just how well they played in general. I mean, you had a bunch of guys that were unselfish. They had a really strong senior point guard who just really made some plays. They had some juniors that could, step away and make some shots. Not a team that, when they come out from warm-ups, that's going to, catch your eye. But they play hard. And I believe that's a winnable game for them against Lima Senior. I got to see Lima Senior early in the year against Toledo St. John in a game that didn't go their way. But I think if Lima Senior is able to get out and run, I think they have enough athletes and playmakers that they could get by Toledo Star. I think a lot of that's just going to determine on the pace and how that game is played. And with St. V and Olmsted Falls, that's one game I really wish I could go see. But it's just going to be hard to pull me away from that Division II district in Canton. But I think it's going to be a much closer game than people would probably think. I think you're going to get two really tough programs. And if Olmsted Falls is making shots, I don't want to, come out and make a Fitz-Bits kind of a hot take on this one. But I think Olmsted Falls could make that game very, very interesting. But I would say that the St. V is not only the favorite in that game, but they would be my pick to make it out of that region.
All right. Well, last thing here, I want to ask one more question, then we'll wrap it up. Stubbs, we didn't get to you on Division I, so just real quick, who are your picks in Division I? Who do you like?
To be honest with you, I think Akron. I agree with TG. I think Akron St. Vincent St. Mary's comes out of there. I'm not bold enough. I want to do it. I'm not bold enough to go against Carl Kramer. There's just something eating at me about Centerville beating them, but I'm not going to do it. I'm going to go with Moeller. So I'll take them as well. I think Mentor is going to beat Lakewood St. Ed's. And, boy, that Central Ohio is tough to call, but
it's almost like you have a rooting interest.
I totally agree with Dak. Pick North could very easily get out of here. But Central's winning pedigree in big games outside of the state tournament is hard to go against. So I'll go with Pick Central.
All right, Zach. Who does Bob have? Does Bob have Central or North?
Bob has Central because Jay-Z, a.k.a. Javon Garcia, is going to play for him this summer, so he's going with Central.
Oh, that's my best friend. All right. Well, good deal. Well, I know that went long, listeners, but we did hit all 16 regions. Want to thank Zach Flair, TJ Peatross, and, of course, Kurt Stubbs for their encyclopedia of knowledge. And that was great, boys. I am looking forward to this regional, and I will see all of you guys at the state tournament. As always, hopefully Zach doesn't get kicked off of press row. Hopefully TJ doesn't cheer on press row, and hopefully Stubbs doesn't offend John Stovall. We can do all those things, and everything will go well. So for Jason Morrow, I'm Corey Albertson. That was the Triple Double Podcast. Thanks for listening. This podcast is brought to you by PlayEasy.com. For players, coaches, or casual athletes looking to book a sports facility, as well as owners and managers of sports facilities, PlayEasy.com is the new one-stop site for streamlined services. If you're looking for a place to practice, play, host your tournament, camp, or other, simply go to PlayEasy.com and create a booking request for your area. Your request will go out to surrounding facilities who will respond with their best offer. Once you receive the offer that best fits your needs, book the facility and you're ready to play. For facility owners and managers, PlayEasy puts the power in your hands to maximize the usage and visibility of your facility. Register your facility for free today at PlayEasy.com. PlayEasy.com is the booking site built by athletes, coaches, and facility managers, and is proud to help bring you the Triple Double Podcast. This podcast is also brought to you by Anago Cleaning Systems. Are you tired of struggling in a dead-end job? If so, Anago Cleaning Systems has what you're looking for, an opportunity to go into business for yourself, but not by yourself. With franchising opportunities available for as little as a $2,500 down payment, purchasing an Anago franchise has never been easier. Once you own your Anago franchise, you're licensed to clean commercial facilities all around the greater Cincinnati, Dayton, or Columbus areas with the support of Anago's sales, quality control, operational, and accounting staff. Call 513-332-0033 today for your opportunity to be your own boss and grow your own commercial cleaning company under the guidance of Anago's proven and successful system. Again, call 513-332-0033 to learn more. With Anago, your future starts today.